I tell you, I hardly ever call Coast to Coast and ask to go on. I love the show. I listen to the show, but I'm going to call George Norrie or Dan Heiser today and say, hey, I'd like to come on. I know you have your show already booked tonight, but in the first hour or tomorrow about Bohemian Grove and this death out there, because this is right up their alley. I mean, this is like a movie. You can get our film, Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove and The Order of Death, 2 films on 1 DVD at InfoWarsStore.com. If you want to really delve into this and understand what happened, I mean, this is the stuff that movies are made of. And we have a former prosecutor and defense lawyer as well, in another incarnation, syndicated radio host, TV host, LionelMedia.com, joining us for this segment. The next, we're going to him in a moment. And then we've got coming up, Anthony Gucciardi is hosting the 4th hour today. And I may even hold over into some of that with him and get to the news I haven't gotten to. We've got New York Times death-threatening Trump. That's a top story up there as well, trying to get their forces out there to do that. But before I go any further, it is your purchases of books and videos and T-shirts and material that allows us to make more films. And notice how we're on top of the Scalia death, and we're on top of Bohemian Grove, and we're on top of the fact that death threatened Trump, and we're leading the news, we're dominating the cycle, we're getting the threats, we're on the target, we're over the target. We are where you need to promote to your neighbors, your friends, your colleagues, your family, your church, your synagogue, your mosque, whatever, your bowling club, whatever it is. InfoWars is over the target. We're as close to the truth as you're going to get. We don't have all the answers. And you see through rose-colored darkly, or scanner darkly, as the Bible says. But I'm looking for the truth, baby. And I've dug deep into it, and we know the pulse of these people, and we know their modus operandi. And let me tell you, the Pope's secretary just got found dead in a hammer pregnant in the offices. There's so many people getting killed around that Vatican, makes your head spin. And all the little kids in Boys Town and Penn State and all of it. I mean, it's just a sick, filthy crew, folks. A sick, filthy crew. I mean, I look at little kids, I want to protect them and be good to them. I have zero sexual attraction, but that's because I'm not a devil worshiper. I mean, I like the most mature, feminine, super-powered woman I can get. You know, I want Wonder Woman, man. I want the full, challenging, bucking bronco. And I don't mean sexual, you know what I mean? It's these weird little creepy little kids. I want to club their heads in, pedophiles. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not that I want to kill people, but let me tell you, I got the strength to do it because my body's natural and healthy and wants to protect children. I want to expunge the earth of trash. And it's time to stop putting up with it. Now, briefly, if you want to fund this InfoWars news kamikaze operation, you get high-quality nutraceuticals at InfoWarsLife.com. If you want the ultimate brain pill that's got stuff that's prescription in Europe in it that is so healthy and natural, InfoWarsLife.com. You can get 10% off on all the nutraceuticals when you sign up for auto ship and ensure it never sells out, because then when you're auto ship, we can hold that back for you. We've got the Liver Cleanse and Liver Shield back in with the Oxy Powder, proprietary, amazing gallbladder and liver cleanse. Check out the informational videos on that. Winter Sun. Great for in the winter and the spring and the fall. So much of the sickness is because you don't have the vitamin D3. It's the best under the tongue, sublingual you're going to find out there, and so much more. So Liver Shield is back. We've got so much more. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, and a lot of other specials as well. 10% off on all the water filtration systems with promo code WATER. InfoWarsStore.com. The new joint formula just came in 2 days ago. That was over a year in the development to get all the sourced organic known compounds, 9 of them. It costs you $40, $50, $60, $70 for another brand that has in these concentrations that are organic 9 different known compounds. It's not where you take one or take the other. It's 9 of them that are known. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. And when you fund us, you are funding dedicated. I mean, I woke up at 6 this morning and saw about the Scalia's death in the secret society and was bouncing off the walls, calling everybody, working on it. I got here, and I was like a race car blowing its engine to get on air. I mean, I just could not believe it. It just never ends.
Yeah.
And just drives me up the wall. And David Knight's staying with us because he wanted to get to a point, and I'll get to it with Lionel, because Lionel's been a criminal investigator and a prosecutor, about the sheriff's report not matching up, them changing the story, Poindexter, the Black Op commander, saying that he didn't know Scalia. Now they're the top of this secret order that's a spinoff of the Illuminati in the encyclopedia. I mean, eyes wide shut, baby. Here we are. This is it. And you just cannot make this stuff up. Truth is stranger than fiction. So Lionel joins us, and I appreciate him joining us and putting his prosecutor hat on to go over this. Lionel, you've heard us set the table here. I hope he died of natural causes, and maybe they were covering up. There were a few gals out at the place, and they didn't want anybody to know about it. Not that he was with some gals on Valentine's Day, not with his wife. We're not saying that. All we're saying is, from somebody that studies criminology, I'm not professional like you, this looks like an Agatha Christie novel that stinks to high heaven. What do you say, Lionel?
Well, I don't know right now. Well, first, I've got to tell you that I reacted this morning the way you did. When I'm reading about this thing, which is textbook Illuminati, as people call it, I don't know what people need to hear if they think this is the Sertoma Club or the Lions Club or some wacky group of folks, the Hunting Templar. I don't know if anybody even has the intellectual heft or the right pay grade to dig this. But Alex and David, since the beginning, if I walked in there and somebody called me and I'm just a regular prosecutor on duty, get a duty call, and I say, okay, what do we have here, as they say on TV? Oh, it's Antonin Scalia. Wait a minute. A conservative firebrand, arguably the most significant, hated, loathed, and revered justice in the last quarter century at least. He's found dead. And let me make this one point extremely clear.
It was major motive.
He had a pillow on his head. Now, I don't want to play Columbo or Quincy here, but I just want everybody to understand that he had a pillow on his head. Now, starting with that, later on it changed, Alex, to, well, it was near his head, next to his head, on his face, on his head. What this is me. He had a pillow on his head. Now, the next thing, nobody would have moved. Everybody would have been locked down. Did anybody not show up? It's like Paulie in The Godfather. Did anybody not show up? Did anybody show up? Any new members of this? Who fed him? Any room service? I want everybody's
got to be questioned because the security detail wasn't there.
Everybody. And speaking of The Godfather, this is the old Busetta, you know, with the pillowcase. You look for it. Now, forget the autopsy. We keep saying autopsy. That's okay. But if the family, as is their criterion, if you will, as they are wont to do and could do, if you don't want to do an autopsy, then a couple of things needed to be done. Number one, you need to draw blood from the heart immediately. He's dead, but we're not talking the Y incision. Draw blood from the heart, run a catheter into the bladder, and get urine. Do just a preliminary tox screen. Save that. Once the evidence is gone, once the body is cremated or embalmed, all evidence is done. Then you look under the eyes for petechial hemorrhaging. You have somebody who is barely conversant in forensic pathology just to see whether there's signs of suffocation, ligature, just to do a cursory review.
No basics done. Stories all changed. They rush to get rid of the body. They've got his private jet there waiting. Don't fly to Dallas, 35 minutes away. San Antonio, 25 minutes away. Houston, an hour away. They don't do any of this. They just magically say, hours after he's even announced dead, no autopsy, the family doesn't want it. As if the family just said, no autopsy, by the way. No autopsy, by the way. I mean, this whole thing is redonkulous.
And what's amazing also is that how people believe that, first of all, this is replete with errors and errata. Number one, look at very carefully as to what the people say, what the actual reports are as they change. Nobody is getting their story straight. And by the way,
let me ask you this, Lionel. I got to interrupt you because I know you're a prosecutor. You're going over the basics, and all these top forensics people in New York and top detectives in D.C. are saying this is ridiculous. This stinks. I've never seen anything this ridiculous. And you've got all the stories changing. David right here went in front of the judges. They hid in their chambers.
Yeah.
But what about the fact that the timing of this, all the things he was involved in, all the things that he was doing, and the media criticizing everyone for daring to even ask, hey, we should have an autopsy. The way the media was unified behind that, and then Obama making a joke about it. Lionel?
If critical to everything, Alex, in addition to this, and let me just say, as you've said, I wasn't there. I'm not suspecting he was killed. I'm not anything. But the reason why you rule this out is to rule it out, especially when, and let me be clear about this, there was a pillow on his head.
If Obama was found dead at a remote hunting lodge, there'd be an autopsy and investigation.
If Bernie Sanders, if Hillary Clinton, if somebody that, and I hate to do this because I hate to inject politics, but it works like this, Alex. Because he was this conservative firebrand, because so many people hated him, and to show you how much they hated him, read the social media response, the postmortem, these horrible, these
They were so
vile,
happy he was killed. They said, now kill the other judges. Now kill, they said,
and people
Thomas.
and people ask me all the time, they'll say, Alex, well, who would want to, this man harm? I'm saying, look at the reaction. But what I'm saying is that, Alex, there was a show recently, Making a Murder, about Stephen Avery. And there is not there's that term again, a conspiracy theory that people will not entertain because they like it. O.J. Simpson's on the FX channel, and people are coming up with theories about the Sun and Al Cowlings because they like O.J. or because they find this interesting. However, these same people, when you come to a real-life, actual firebrand, they're instant pathologists, instant cardiologists who say, well, he's 79 years old, he was fat.
They said the cause of death was this, but no one even saw, no one knew it was a heart attack. Then they changed it. It goes on and on. David Knight has some questions for you, Lionel, because you're a former prosecutor in a major city down in Florida and saw a lot of death and a lot of things going on. Go over this police report.
Well, to underscore what you were just saying, Lionel, he was 79, but we've got Bernie Sanders who's 75. If he were to die like this, would people say, well, we should have an investigation? But when you're talking about the fact that he's got a pillow over his head, then they changed this. We just got out this report from the sheriff after 10 days. It's filled with inaccuracies. It's filled with contradictions of what the judge told us. We asked, what was the process here? And the first judge who was called, Bishop, said, they called me. I couldn't go. So then I called the other judge, Beebe, and he couldn't go. So then we got Guevara. Now, in the report, the sheriff is saying, well, I called Bishop and then I called Guevara. So there's all these kinds of inaccuracies. And then the interesting thing, too, one more, and I'll get you to comment on this. They say there was a breathing apparatus present on the table next to the lamp. Now, that would indicate perhaps sleep apnea, and yet he didn't have that on, but he was in the bed, and they stressed this over and over again. He was in the bed. Covers were perfectly folded. His pajamas were not wrinkled. And that's the only thing they seem to be interested in.
I want him to answer those. I want him to answer those. It's the clear scripting. Yeah. Leanne just did this. You just did this. That's why I made the joke when I go to the bathroom. I said, I'm going to go pee-pee now. I don't talk like that in the real world. And then Leanne didn't quite get the joke, and you did. But I was saying, yeah, no, it's the joke of. And he had a full tummy. The way it's all, he was a great man, a good evening he had. With us, the friends, I did not know him, but the full tummy he was amongst the number of our secret society. This guy talks like Count Dracula. I mean, it's so scripted. When I read the next morning, his account, it was so scripted. I mean, as an investigator, I'm a journalist. I've done a lot of investigating. I'm not a prosecutor like this guy, but all the cops have come out and said, this is as phony and synthetic as wax fruit. Yeah. You can look at it and tell it's fake.
But Alex, even if it wasn't, let's just assume this is what happened. And what we're seeing is, God forbid, just rife Texas incompetence. When you have anyone who dies, and by the way, let me just say this before I forget, and David brings up my point. We have people who, on the Supreme Court, for the most part, tend to be older. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, 82 years old? The popes, the papacy, they tend to be older. Are we saying that we're going to give a pass to any Supreme Court justice, any pope?
Sets a precedent that no one who's old gets an autopsy. Yeah. Free game to kill everybody. Maybe gunshot wounds to leaders. Exactly. We won't do autopsies.
They all tend to be diabetic or they have coronary artery disease. But see, when you look at this, Alex, just like, for example, an arson, you can look at the arson and say, well, that's one thing. But I want to go beyond the test for flammables. Tell me about this person. Well, he had insurance problems. Well, he had money problems.
Yeah, look for motives.
Policy.
Well, there's obviously motives to get rid of Scalia, and who has the motive, then who has the means, and then who could have acted. Oh, my gosh, all three, the perfect place. Black Op commander, secret society, 30,000-acre ranch in the middle of a satanic kingdom of voodoo with the key guy at the key time, buddies with Obama, and then a total cover-up of all the facts, everything changing, and the blood dumped down the drain, and then the private jet's not used to get him out. the story's changing on and on and on and on. You'd have to be nuts to not say there's a cover-up. Was it sex and drugs? Was it Viagra? And who knows? I mean, all I know is they were covering this up day one.
I'm telling you also, another thing people realize, you always have to ask this question. And I'm going to say again, I have no basis for this other than the
Me
fact
neither.
that
I'm not saying that the hundreds of satanic devil masks on the wall did anything. They're loving. Everything's fine. Or the werewolves tearing small children apart. Werewolves eating children is no big deal.
Let me remind you of this, Alex. He had a pillow on his head.
Can we put the werewolves? What if he had a werewolf on his head?
Right. It could look like Abbott and Costello, like a scene from, Lon J. There we go, with Peter Lorre.
But there's just shots of devils with dead kids. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Now, the thing that I wonder also is people say, why would these family people, these family folks, and by the way, my heart goes out because this was a father and a grandfather, and they loved him, and he was a tremendous jurist, irrespective of what you think. But the question I have is, sometimes in history, family people are really quiet. You ever heard the Kennedys ever talk about JFK?
Well, let's expand on that. They've got letters now saying he was killed. I've talked to major rock stars and other famous people who had family killed, and the FBI came to them and said, "You're going to say it's a lone gunman, or we're going to kill you." And then I'm like, "Can I tell that story?" "No, you can't." "Can I?" "Okay, well, why are you telling me?" "Just so you know, they've already killed us. We're not going to speak out, but you can say vaguely this happened." So that's what they do. And I'm not saying the whole FBI, but they have special units.
Yeah.
And they tell you, hey, if you talk about what happened with somebody that got shot, you're going to end up dead. Is that clear? Shut your mouth. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lionel.
But what I'm saying, though, is sometimes family members, we don't know what happens. Now, understand something
Farrakhan's
also.
blood devil up there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is not my story. So when I pose questions, people turn to me all the time and say, well, who would want him killed? Why would they do this? Who would be? I said, it's not my story. It's your story. You tell me. I ask the question. I'm trying to get to the bottom. Alex, we're the only people in this country who, when we're trying to ferret out the truth.
That's right. The default SOP was shut down. We're pointing it out. We don't think anything happened in the middle of the command base with the Black Op commander that's with Obama, with the devil skulls and the werewolves eating children in the secret Illuminati society. None of that matters. There's nothing spooky here. We just want an investigation. Hawaii 5-0's on the job. Black Op commander in covert operations around the world, best buddies with Obama, getting big awards. Key justice just voted to not allow trillions in carbon taxes, about to vote to defend the Second Amendment, stop open borders. A strict constructionist magically dies in the middle of nowhere. There's all these conflicting stories, pillow on the head, hundreds of devil masks everywhere, werewolves, sculptures tearing babies apart with devils. Huge satanic community right over the border there. Massive human sacrifices going on that doesn't get any media coverage, but is well known in Texas. And there's no investigation of any type. And I apologize, we're bad. I also said the left will probably try to kill Trump, and now the New York Times writers come out and called for that. But again, I'm discredited for being dead on target, David Knight. You had another point you were making, that they started all the conspiracy theories first. They gave no facts. What are we supposed to do? I mean, like Lionel said, this sets the precedent when famous people die or old people die, that it's just got to be they're old. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were the ones asking, why didn't you do an investigation? Where's the information? They're the ones offering the theories and talking about, oh, we didn't need to do an investigation because his pajamas weren't wrinkled and the sheets were folded nice and neat, and he was placed, even though he's got exercise bands on the other side of the room.
Why does this guy talk like? Why does this guy talk like somebody who's writing a child's parable or children's books? Lionel?
I have no idea, and I also find it amazing that this man, who was active, who was out hunting, who was gallivanting, as the folks would say, around the world, peregrinating, perambulating, tooling about. This was the most active man who was the longest term, ready to go back, known for his vivacity and his joie de vivre, and yet at the same time, when that particular meme doesn't fit, he's a decrepit, obese, diabetic.
Well, yeah, they suddenly changed the story. Exactly. He was dead already, actually.
And I got to say, he's getting sicker every day since he's been dead. Yeah, that's what you see coming up. At first, the first day, he's got the guy who traveled with him to Hong Kong and Singapore on this judicial trip saying, oh, he was so vital, he was moving. And then within a couple of days, he's talking about how
he goes to Bohemia with royalty for other special events.
But I want to also, Alex, just to go back. Again, if I don't know how much you've watched this, but if you watch Making a Murderer, you should hear how people in Reddit columns are reading transcripts and coming up with the most insane theories as to who killed Teresa Halbach, and this conspiracy ideation fits because they kind of like the person. O.J. Simpson, they were having the daughter killed, Nicole.
Yeah, they'll make up stuff that's flagrant because they just feel like it. But when something's cut and dry, that something's being covered up.
No.
We're not...
Or when they don't like the subject, because a lot of the professional left loathe Scalia and never read an opinion. This is a man, by the way, who ruled along with Justice Thomas 8-1 to throw out Florida's death penalty. This is a man who voted basically for online or for violent videos, for flag burning. This man that you swore was this, and I don't agree with a lot of what he did, but this homophobic, xenophobic, misogynistic, cretinous Neanderthal.
He was not what the left was saying he was. LionelMedia.com. Follow you at Twitter, at Lionel Media. Thank you so much, Lionel. Great job, buddy. Well, there's another, prosecutor from his, I guess, down in Miami, breaking all this down. This is just default being ignored, David Knight. I know you're going to be on tonight from 7 right through the debate with analysis. Leanne, Jakari, yourself, McBreen, Do. I'm going to be Skyping in as well, doing Facebook mentions tonight. This debate is going to be big. But there is a 4th hour coming up with Anthony Gucciardi. But first, we got a couple special reports we haven't aired that are so important that we're going to air in the second segment before Anthony comes on. But I've got to put some bookends on all this in 70 seconds with my good friend and co-host, David Knight. I'm Alex Jones. Infowars.com has got stories they don't want you to read or spread. Thousands of years ago, there was a basic form of chivalry. Our ancestors would hear the drums of war, giving the warriors of the tribe a chance to organize and prepare a defense. 60 years ago, when foreign air forces were approaching filled with bombs, they had drums of their own, air raid sirens. But in the 21st century, there are silent weapons for quiet war. Pathogens added to the food and water, and to the lining of plastics that destroy our vitality, turn off our hormones, and accelerate our journey towards death. I personally counter this onslaught with Anthroplex. Anthroplex is designed with known organic concentrated herbs to create the basic foundation to normal metabolic activity inside the human body. Discover why Anthroplex is turning so many heads today. It's time for us to take our bodies back into our own hands, and it starts at InfoWarsLife.com with Anthroplex.